Okay. Hello, everybody. So today, I wanted to share some pictures I took with the Leica M Monochrome camera. I had the Minolta 28mm f2.8 lens on the camera. We went to the Brevard Zoo with our oldest grandson. But before we get into that, reminder: 2 weeks we give away the Canon QL17 camera. If you want to participate in that, please send me an email with your name and make sure to read the rules attached to this video and previous videos regarding the contest. I'm giving away basically all of my old film equipment. Had thought about selling it, but I just thought, you know what, I'll just pass it on to somebody who's going to use it. So anyway, additionally, I did want to let people know. So back in May, I had a really high spike in my blood pressure. I've since gotten that down, but I suffered some blurry vision because of it. Um, and as such, people might wonder why I bought a manual focus only camera um, with purchasing a Leica M Monochrome. And the answer is simple. I knew, um, yeah, as most street photographers know, with a manual focus camera, that if I use a 35 millimeter or wider aperture lens, so 28 millimeter, 24 millimeter, uh, and if I'm shooting at f8, f11, f16, f22, uh, particularly on Leicas. And Leica has some advantages there because of this focusing tab. So street photographers know this, but set it in the middle here, and I have everything from like 4 feet to 15 feet, maybe 20 feet in focus. If I push it all the way to the right, everything from roughly 10 feet to infinity is in focus, so there's a bit of overlap. And then if I push it all the way to the left, everything from 3 feet to about 8 feet is in focus. So three settings, three positions on the lens uh, gets nice focus on most situations. Now, this does not get you critical focus. Um, Critical focus being that tap sharp focus. And if you shoot uh, commercial photography, um, landscape photography, you want that critical tap sharp focus. Wedding photographers need really good focus, but you could potentially get away with zone focusing there too. Although personally, uh, I would just use, uh, well, for a wedding, I would actually use both color and my monochrome cameras. Uh, just because the monochrome camera does have certain advantages in the low light situations if you're at a reception at night. So, anyway, um, moving into and by the way, you can do this. Leica is not the only camera. The lenses come with focus tabs for Leica M mount typically, but you can buy aftermarket focus tabs and put on lenses for other cameras. This is Minolta SRT, um, and the lenses for it also have the depth of field scale printed on the lens, which would allow you to do zone focusing as well. So keep that in mind. Anyway, we'll move on to the pictures now and show you what we have. Also, as a kind of a tip, um, if you do have vision problems and you're on a Windows computer, and this can be done on a Mac as well, um, if you hold down the Windows key and you press the plus or minus, you can zoom in and out of your screen, which is very handy. So, and that is exactly what we're doing here. So we'll get on this first picture. We'll kind of zoom in. Okay, not a great picture, but I was a little afraid that this was going to be what most of the pictures at the zoo would look like. The Brevard Zoo is essentially you're walking through a rainforest, um, tropical forest. Um, so um, I would say that it does not lend itself well to color photography, at least not in the middle of summer, midday, 95 degrees with a heat index of 106, which is what this day was like. It was pretty brutal. Um, so color cameras don't necessarily perform well for that. Okay, so moving on. This was a happy instance. This is where zone focusing uh, was really nice. Was walking across one of the lagoons and a crane or an egret started flying, and I managed to capture it here. Uh, a color camera, this picture would have been awful. This lagoon, all the lagoons that are in these pictures, the water is that lovely um, poop brown color. Um, and the foliage here is not like a vivid bright green. These are dark greens with dead material um, up into the trees. So it's kind of a mush of ugly browns and greens, and there's not a whole lot of color here that would make this picture of interest. Anyway, so I'm very happy with this picture. The camera did outstanding. The lens worked quite nicely. Uh, this was a relatively cheap lens for Leica M. Uh, you know, uh, buying a Leica M camera, the Leica lenses are uh, very expensive in the modern lenses. You can get some of the old screw mounts relatively cheap, but um, I just bought Voigtlander and in this case a Minolta M mount lens, and it does a great job. Another picture of that same bird coming in for a landing. Uh, Here's a crocodile, or I'm sorry, alligator. Um, Again, mushy water, little viewing platform off of there. Not the greatest picture in the world, but definitely better in black and white than color. But yeah, eh, compositionally the picture is fine. It's just uh, it's just it was the wrong lens for this situation, but I only took the 28 millimeter, and maybe I can crop this image and make it a bit more interesting, but we'll see. So here's a great example of what the Brevard Zoo looks like as you're walking through it. Here's one of the walkways going across one of the lagoons, and the forest, tropical forest foliage that you will see throughout the zoo. Now here's a picture. Do kind of wish I took this in portrait, and but I might just crop this in portrait. Should be able to get roughly a 10 to 12 megapixel crop out of this. Well, actually, I can do better than that. I can probably get a 40 megapixel crop because um, since I do have the raw file, which comes in at 96 megapixels, I can probably get a nice nice high resolution crop out of this, although it might not be as striking with these cables. Now I could have walked up and eliminated these cables out of it, but the sunlight was hitting these cables, and I kind of like them going across the frame of the picture. So yeah, we'll see. Uh, this is straight up my favorite picture out of what I took that day. Um, Probably the closest picture to what I'm used to shooting. Um, so I have these two trees bracketing this tree in the middle um, when I was taking this picture. And as we have a guest spot by this bird here hiding in the shadows. This picture would not have worked on a color camera. There's dappled sunlight here. Uh, Basically, there are two colors in this picture. Uh, the trunk browns dirt color, and in this case, dirt color of the ground. Uh, so a color picture of this would have been horrifically ugly. But in black and white, I really like it. Now here's where black and white does not do well, and this probably would not have done well on a color camera either. Um, there was bald eagle up in these trees. It just didn't work. Here's a picture where black and white worked very well. Probably my second favorite picture out of this, and one of the reasons that I bought the black and white camera. So here, if this was a color picture, this would be an ugly picture because the water is essentially a poop color brown, uh, and would have detracted from everything else in it. As a black and white, you get to see the reflection of the tree canopy on the water, um, and you can obviously see the fish. Even though the water is murky, you can pick out the fish out of the water there. So yeah, like I said, this is a situation where black and white works best. Okay, so here I'm doing the zone focusing. My fronds are in focus. The background is somewhat out of focus. Landscape photographer would have focus stacked this and everything would have been in focus. But again, this is midday, terrible sunlight. Um, the water in the background is a murky brown. The trees in the background are dark green with bits of dead vegetation, dead fronds in them. Um, but in this framing and composition, it works because it's black and white. So those colors don't detract from the picture. Um, the one thing I will say is the high humidity um, made the clouds less defined. Um, and that's going to happen in the summertime here in Florida. So hopefully, when fall comes, we'll get nicer sky uh, when we go back and visit. So I do have a second picture here, same thing, but this picture doesn't work as well. And the reason it doesn't work as well is the water in the background is actually overwhelming the foreground. The picture is not as well balanced, but it was something that I thought I would try. I was trying to reduce the amount of sky, um, but this picture is significantly better balanced, and um, the elements work better together. But it's always good to try something just to see how it works out. All right. Uh, Included a picture of grandson Riker. Um, He's the whole reason we were there. Wish this palm tree didn't have this stuff, but I'm not going to trim it out. But, you know, obligatory palm tree. And if you've ever watched old black and white films, you've seen this picture probably 1,000 times. The sunset, sunrise, sunrise if it's a vampire movie, sunset if it's a cowboy movie. Black and white, that's a terrible picture. Had I had a color camera with me, and my wife, she thought to use her iPhone, so she's got some really nice pictures of this. But it's beautiful sunset, lots of oranges, reds, and yellows reflected. But yeah, like I said, if you've seen old black and white movies, you know exactly what this is and why it looks this way. Anyway, that's it. Hope you liked this. If you did, please like and subscribe to the channel. And a reminder, if you want to participate in the drawing, shoot me an email with your name. Thanks. Have a great day.